All right, this is ERD case number 2016-00465. The complainant is Christina Jackson versus International House of Pancakes, and the complaint was filed on or about January 19th, 2016. The matter was first investigated by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and it was cross-filed with Equal Rights Division pursuant to a work-sharing agreement. When the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission was completed with their investigation, they forwarded the case to us to determine if we were going to take any action. We asked the complainant if she still wanted to proceed, and she said she did. So we then started our investigation. That was back in like 2019. And then we started asking the respondent for a response. We sent it to the respondent's store. We sent it to the place in Hollywood, where you are in California. And no one responded. 7006 Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood, California, 90028. So it was sent there. No one responded after the second, I think, failure to respond. The investigator just did an ID, finding that there was probable cause to support the complainant's claim. And so in that claim, they found that the complainant had stated a valid claim and that there was reason to go on with this case. So at that point, that was initial determination was issued on June 30th, 2020, finding that the respondent had reasonably refused to accommodate religious observance or practice and had terminated the complainant's employment because of her creed. Then that was certified to the Hearing and Mediation Bureau, and I held a pre-hearing in this matter back on December 4th. And at that time, it was just me and Miss Jackson, and there was nobody else present from the respondent. Miss Jackson found a telephone number on Google because the number we had was no longer working. And we eventually got a hold of a manager called Yesid Ruiz. That's Y-E-S-I-D, Ruiz, R-U-I-Z. And Mr. Ruiz was stating that he didn't think that the complainant could come after them. The iHOP, she thought their claim wasn't good anymore. And I said, well, you're going to have to assert that, because at this point that's in front of us. And if you want to assert some claim, you're going to have to put forth proof. And he said he wasn't really able to schedule the hearing or talk settlement. And he said that, could I send him a copy of the file? So I got his email address and I sent it to him there. And at that point, I had that telephone number. He also said, well, I need to talk with my district manager, who he gave us the name of. So, well, I got it wrong at the time, but it turned out to be Mr. Solano, Julio Solano. I think I misspelled it at the time because he misspelled it for me. But in any case, we did get, I think he spelled it Folana, but we had the right telephone number for Mr. Solano. We rescheduled with Mr. Ruiz's input for another pre-hearing on January 27th, 2021. And when we called on that day, me and Ms. Jackson, Mr. Ruiz did not answer. Nobody answered at that number anymore. We called several times and finally got a hold of Mr. Solano on the 27th. And Mr. Solano said that he knew nothing about that Mr. Ruiz no longer worked here at iHOP, that the iHOP in Milwaukee where the complainant had worked had been closed and was no longer in business. I have no idea if that's true. I have never checked that out. And he said that, he did not get the file. He wasn't prepared to go forward on January 27th. Could I send him a copy of the file? So even though I sent a copy of the file to Mr. Ruiz, so he allegedly was going to send it to Mr. Solano, and Ms. Jackson strenuously objected to another postponement of this proceeding. I said, okay, I feel like I have to give them a postponement because he's saying he doesn't know anything about this. That was back then. In January, Mr. Solano gave us his email address and he asked for a copy of the file. We arranged for there to be a third pre-hearing that was to take place at 10:30 on February 17th, 2021. I called on February 17th, 2021, and despite repeated attempts to get a hold of Mr. Solano while Ms. Jackson waited, we never got a hold of Mr. Solano. He never answered, even though he made this appointment, and we sent him the file by email. And then after that, we just scheduled the hearing because I had already had, now this was the third pre-hearing where the respondent was not cooperating. They didn't cooperate during the investigation. And then now we're doing this time. So I said, we'll just schedule it. And that's what we did. I sent out a notice of pre-hearing, a notice of or a conference report and scheduling order saying the dates that we had scheduled and what I expected. All of that was sent, and it was sent to Mr. Solano. And that was sent by mail to him at that address at 7006 Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood, California, 9,00028. It never came back. We assumed that he received it. And in any case, he certainly never contacted me after failing to appear for his pre-hearing, which he knew we were going to schedule a hearing if we did not have a discussion of settlement that resulted in a settlement or at least movement towards settlement. And he never contacted us again. And so then a notice of hearing actually went out, basically reminding people that there's going to be a hearing, went out in this matter, I believe, in June. And that also was sent to Mr. Solano at that same address in California. And Mr. Solano never contacted us again to say there was a problem with that. So here we are. Then he did not show up for the WebEx pre-hearing, which was scheduled as part of in that scheduling order. It said there was going to be a WebEx pre-hearing on last week on Wednesday, August 18th. And I appeared, Ms. Jackson appeared, Mr. Sultan, who is now the complaints attorney, appeared. And we waited 30 minutes in case Mr. Solano or someone else from the respondent would appear late, or if they would call about why they were late, but they did not. And we proceeded and said, okay, well, we'll just go to hearing next Monday as scheduled. So today is Monday, August 23rd, 2021. This hearing has been scheduled since February, and I just don't see why we'd be having any discussion about postponing it, but in any case, that's what we're doing. So for the complainant, there's an appearance by?
William Sultan appears on behalf of Ms. Jackson, who also appears via WebEx.
Okay, and so, and for the respondent, there's an appearance by?
Charles Ching, their HR directors for the company.
Okay. And as I had said, there were emails over the weekend where the respondent, I think, accidentally sent something to me, an email, in which then I responded, and I made sure to send a copy to Mr. Sultan and made sure that the respondent knew that the complainant had an attorney. In response, even though I do not email with parties, I did that as a courtesy to try to make sure the respondent was aware of the hearing and they would be coming to the hearing. Then they got someone named Dennis Vincent, who said he's an insurance broker, wrote back and said that he wanted a 30-day extension because there's some insurance company who they want to get ready for this hearing. And my position is it's very late. As I said in my email in response, there was a motion deadline of May 23rd, I believe it was. and all motions were supposed to have been filed by that day. Any motions after that day had to show that they were filed with due diligence. So I'm not seeing due diligence here. So anything from you, Mr. Sultan?
Yes, I'd just like the record to reflect that I did receive an email indicating that Dennis Vincent was an insurance broker who was handling the matter. I did call Mr. Vincent on Saturday afternoon. He indicated that he didn't have any authority for anything, but that it was his understanding that a claim was opened in the year 2016 and that claim was closed with the insurance company in the year 2017, that they had not retained counsel, and that he was trying to get a hold of someone else who he did not identify by name, but he did indicate they were on the West Coast and he had been unable to contact that person. He also mentioned that he would not be appearing today, and he did during our telephone conversation request a 30-day extension, which I informed him, I'm not the administrative law judge. Somebody needs to make that motion on Monday. I do think the conversation with Mr. Vincent is important for another reason, however. There has been some correspondence in the file suggesting that the particular franchise at issue had at one point in time been the incorrect franchise. But I think that Mr. Vincent solves that particular controversy because there is an insurance claim made and there was a decision made that there was coverage under their employer practices liability policy. I think whether or not there is insurance coverage now is a dispute between the respondent and the insurance carrier. And it certainly sounds to me like the respondent didn't submit a new claim to the insurance company until rather recently, because Mr. Vincent, it appears, did not receive the claim until last week. So I really don't think there's a basis to postpone this hearing. This was a claim that was filed in the year 2016. I also think it's important to note that there does not appear to be a dispute of the facts in this particular case. So it's not as though the respondent is indicating that there are witnesses that are available to testify that are somehow unavailable today. It's not as though the respondent is indicating that there are documents that they would plan to use as exhibits that are simply not unavailable today. So there really isn't a defense to the claim. And really, I think it's time to put this 5-year-old case to a merits hearing.
Response, Mr. Cheng?
No, I understand that this all the miscommunication. As far as we know, original case that has been submitted. We don't know what was the interruptions in between the communication from the previous contact from you or the attorney to our management teams. Like I said, the company has been closed due to COVID last year, and in between, our manager is supposed to send us the information, which is not communicated to us. I spoke to Julio's regarding the case. He told me that the information received is by previous GM Yasik, but so he doesn't know any knowledge of the informations to provide to us. Recently, our director of operation, Hugo Escobedo, get involved. So he's the one actually have the email received from himself and forward to our company. So we try to figure out why is the communication. But again, this is not an excuse for for our part to not responded. It's just it's the fact that a lot of miscommunication due to the COVID things. So, but plus again, I understand that we have to move forward. I just want to give a chance to, if we can't, give us some time to prepare, because we have, we try at this time we have to go back to to take out all the information that we have to find some solution.
I'm not going to give you any postponement. As you heard from my discussion of what happened, COVID did not result in this problem. The mail has been working, the telephones have been working, the email has been working, and there was contact at all 3 points with your organization by that means. Mr. Solano still works for you, and he was sent a full copy of the file. There's a document in our record showing that he was sent a full copy of the record in this matter. We sent it to Mr. Ruiz, who was your former manager, at the Milwaukee store who said he was going to forward that to Mr. Solano. We talked to Mr. Solano. He made a pre-hearing appointment with me and Ms. Jackson to discuss this case in February, and then he didn't appear. And when I called him repeatedly, I could not get a hold of him. He never contacted us anyway. We sent him a pre-hearing conference report in order, which I assume he received since we mailed it to the same address. And it has never come back. And he never bothered to contact us. I'm sorry, but you have a problem in your organization that this happened, because we have sent numerous documents to you over several months. And so at this point, I am not giving you a postponement. There is no, as I said, there was a motion deadline of May 23rd, and any motion filed after that had to show that any motion was filed with due diligence. As soon as you had the information, you need to file that motion. I do not find it to be due diligence to the fact that you basically have employees who aren't doing their job. And someone at a district manager level, someone who actually talked to me on the telephone. So I do not see that there's any basis for finding a postponement. So we're going to start this hearing. I take it you're going to call the complainant, Mr. Sultan.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, please raise your right hand, Ms. Jackson. Do you swear the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
We don't swear, but
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you affirm that you will tell the truth in this matter under threat of prosecution for perjury if you do not tell the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, thank you. I apologize
Good morning.
for giving you the wrong oath. Okay, so, all right, go ahead then, please.
Good morning, Ms. Jackson. Could you please
Good
state
morning.
and spell your name for the record?
It is Christina Jackson, CHRISTINA JACKSON.
Ms. Jackson, did you apply to work at the International House of Pancakes located at 8101 West Brown Deer Road in Milwaukee?
Yes.
And when did you apply to work at the International House of Pancakes?
It was on the 29th, I believe,
Of what month?
of December
What year?
2015. 2015.
Thank you. And why did you apply to work at the International House of Pancakes in December 2015?
Prior to that, I went on a breakfast. I went out to eat, and I knew him before, and he asked me how I was doing, and basically let me know that they were hiring, and I was like, sure, I would come and work for them. So we sat down and talked. He gave me an interview, and
Can you stop you a second? Can you identify who he is?
Don, I don't know his last name, but he was a manager.
D-O-N?
D-O-N. Don,
He was a manager, you said?
he was a manager.
At the iHOP.
Yes.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You applied for the position, you said?
Yes. And being that he know me, he knew my religion, and I go to church and I don't wear pants, but I did tell him during the interview, I said, well, I stopped him and I was like, I don't wear pants. And he assured me that it was not a problem. And he started telling me about someone else. And I was like, okay, well, I don't wear pants. And he was like, that's not a problem at all.
You mentioned that Don started telling you about someone else.
Yes.
Was the other employee, was that an employee of IHOP?
No, I believe that it was someone in a higher rank than him, like his manager, or, just higher than him,
But a manager who worked for IHOP, correct?
Right, correct.
And was it a manager who had a religion that you were able to observe?
Yes, I really don't know what it's called. I forgot, but it's a little like circle. I think the Jewish wear them.
Yarmulke?
Yes,
Did Don
and
tell you that your religious observance would not be a problem because another employee was able to observe their religious practice by wearing a yarmulke?
yes,
Can you tell us what your religion is, please?
it is apostolic.
And let me just ask you a little bit about that. You mentioned that you don't wear pants and instead you wear skirts, correct?
Right, correct.
And these are skirts that are full length?
Right, to the calf muscle or lower, but in all decent and modest.
All right. And Don indicated to you that you could observe that religious practice, true?
Correct.
Let me ask you about your conversations about compensation. What did Don tell you that you would be paid?
He said I will be paid minimum wage, and tips.
Okay. Did you understand minimum wage to be $7.25 an hour?
Yes,
You also mentioned tips. How are the tips going to be calculated?
it was going, I guess well, not guess, sorry, because I know. Um, he said that with our tips, they'll be separated, divided, with everybody who worked that shift.
So they be
Did he
shared?
Yes,
So he indicated to you that they would add all the tips up at the end of the day and then divide them equally amongst the staff.
yes.
How many hours per week were you told that you would be working?
He told me 40, and then during the interview, he assured me that I'll be making more than the other job that I was working before I start working for them.
Okay. But just to recap, it was your understanding when you accepted employment at iHOP that you would be earning $7.25 an hour plus tips 40 hours a week, correct?
Yes,
When did you start working at iHOP?
it was before the New Year's. I worked December 30th, 2015. I worked that day, but the next day, uh, I couldn't go to work because of my religion, me wearing skirts, which I didn't understand because it don't stop me from doing my job.
All right, let me ask you about December 30th. So you worked December 30th, correct?
Correct.
You wore a skirt that day?
I did.
Was Don working that day?
Yes.
Did anyone mention to you that there was a problem with how you were dressed?
Not that day.
Let's talk about the next day, December 31st, 2015. Did you work that day?
No,
Why not?
because he said that his boss had an issue with the way I dressed with my skirts.
Let me ask you, when you said he, do you mean Don?
Yes, I'm sorry, Don. Forgive me.
Don told, and Don was the manager of the IHOP, correct?
Correct.
So Don told you that his manager said that you could not wear skirts, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Was that a telephone conversation?
During the time, I believe the next day, yes,
Did you call him or did he call you?
I called.
And why
I
did you call
called
Don?
because I kept calling. I went in that day, and then he said it was an issue, with me wearing skirts. And then I kept calling prior to that, and then they just stopped answering my phone calls.
Let me ask you about sort of what the practice was for showing up to work. Did you have a set schedule or did you have to call in?
At the time, I don't think I had a set schedule yet because it was only work one day. I worked
And
one
so,
day, and then he was like, "You come in, the next day." And he was like, "This time, it could change because Saturday," but I told him I was not going to work on Sunday.
all right, well, let me ask you about that. So after you worked on December 30th of 2015, you were supposed to return to work the next day.
Correct.
Did you return to work the next day?
I did.
And what were
And
you
the
told?
reason why I called him is because he said I couldn't work because of my attire, my skirts.
Sure.
And
And what
then
I'm
that,
trying to learn, Miss Jackson, is did you physically show up at the restaurant before or after the telephone call with Don?
that was before.
Okay, so
Before.
you showed up, you physically showed up to work, and what did Don tell you?
He told me I couldn't work because it was an issue with the way I dressed.
Okay, did you leave then?
Yes.
Okay, and then
And
you
then
had a subsequent telephone call with Don?
yes, I called him and called him trying to figure out, what was the issue, why I couldn't work.
And that's when Don told you that his manager said that your attire was the problem.
Right.
Did you physically show up to iHOP to work after December 31st, 2015?
No, he already had let me know that I couldn't work, so there was no reason for me to go, besides me going to get my check for that day.
Were you paid for that day that you worked?
I was paid for that day. I was for that one day.
And how did you receive that pay?
That was in a check.
Was it mailed to you?
Uh, I can't remember. I can't say. I can't remember because it's been so long. But I'm for certain I was paid for that day.
Do you recall if Don's last name was Inu?
I'm, I don't, I didn't remember his last name. I just knew it was Don. When I see him, I know him when I see him. I remember people's faces. Yeah.
Do you recall filing a charge of discrimination with the EEOC?
Yes.
And do you recall when you filed that charge of discrimination with the EEOC?
Um,
Just ballpark it. I don't need an exact date.
it was in 2016.
Do you know if it was in January?
Um, yes.
Okay. Was it shortly after you were terminated?
Yes.
And why did you file a charge of discrimination with EEOC?
Because I feel that that wasn't fair to myself or anyone else. Like if I wouldn't have said nothing, they could go on and just discriminate others just because of their religion. And that doesn't stop a person from doing their job.
Where did you work before you accepted the position at iHOP?
I worked at McDonald's.
Was the iHOP position a better position financially?
Yes, that's what he told me. He said during the interview, he was like, you'll get paid minimum wage plus tips. And he said, I will make my money throughout the tips.
Those are all the questions I have for you this morning, Ms. Jackson.
Okay.
1 second. Can you tell me why it is you knew Don but don't really seem to know Don? Why is it you feel you know him but you don't know his last name or anything else about him?
Okay, when I say no, like I've seen him before, maybe like even when I worked at McDonald's, he came there before. He knew I went to church. Just by, every day, you go out and you see different people, not no, like we're friends or, where I know so much about that person, known like I've seen that person around multiple times, plenty of times. And he knew my name. We seen each other. He knew that at that time I was working in restaurant business. So that's when I say no, that's what I mean by no.
All right. Let me check. Do you know how much you were paid that day that you were paid, that you did work?
I don't, can't
Yeah.
remember.
Do you have a copy? Do you have the check still?
I will have to look for it to see. I'm not for certain.
All right. Did you quit your job at McDonald's to
I
take this
did.
job at a iHOP?
I did.
Did you get your job back at McDonald's after you did not work at iHOP?
I did.
So did you lose any money that where you were not working between your job at iHOP for one day and going back to McDonald's?
You said, did I lose any money during
Yes,
the time?
did you like where there's a time period where you didn't have a job? Was there like a day or 2 days, a week? I mean, you got your job back at McDonald's. When did that happen?
Right after. I did lose like the day that I missed work that they was not calling me. Then shortly after that, I went back in January to McDonald's. I did.
And then you continued working at McDonald's
I did.
till for how long?
Um, I really can't give a certain day because I ended up quitting because of the stress that they had put me under and a lot of other stuff that I went through working there. And I know it's not a case about them. So, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to know how long what you were getting paid at McDonald's, how long you worked
At
there.
McDonald's,
Yes.
when I left, I was,
Well, what did you earn in January in 2016 when you went back? How much were you earning?
I believe, $11.
An hour?
Yes.
And how many hours a week?
It depends. And when I say depends, because when they're busy, you'll get hours. When they're slow, they'll send people home. So it depends.
There was
Like,
no like average that you noticed in terms of when you looked at it over time, how much you were earning or how much you were working at for McDonald's?
I would say my check was at least about 500, sometimes maybe 6, but then sometime it'll go down to 300, so it wouldn't stay the same.
And was that check like weekly, bi-weekly, monthly?
Bi-weekly, every 2 weeks.
Okay. And you said it went down to how much?
Sometimes three something. Sometimes it will be 4. I think the highest, yeah.
Okay. And then can you give us some approximation of when you stopped working at McDonald's?
I know it was a couple days before my birthday. I had quit. Um, So it was in May.
Of 2016?
No, wasn't in 2016. It was after that I was working for them, then not working for them. So yeah,
So I don't know what you're saying. When did you stop working for McDonald's?
like completely been working where I'm at now, 2021, 2020. Maybe in 2019
And did you leave to go to another job then?
at the time, yes.
And what's the other job?
Um, I'm not for sure if I went there first or not, but I know I worked at Checkers before for a short period of time. I worked at um, George Webb for a short period of time. Then I went to now where I went to Crown Service, um, and I've been with them for a few years now. So
And what is Crown Service?
it's a temp service, which I ended up getting hired on, the place I'm working at now.
And when did you begin for Crown Services?
The first day, I mean, the first year, I don't know, but I know 29, 20, yeah, these dates. I'm not good with dates. um, I've been there for at least 2 years now, where I'm at now with it's integrated mail, but it came through Crown. So they just hired me on, but I was
So
working
the
through.
company you're assigned to work at was called Integrated Mail,
Yes,
and now you are permanently working for Integrated Mail?
yes.
Okay. And when did you start working for Integrated Mail as a permanent employee?
Um, I've been with them for maybe a month or two now as an employee. A month, maybe a month.
All right. And do you remember how much you earned when you worked for a short period of time at Checkers?
Checkers, I think it was $9.
And how many hours a week?
Um, think 40, and we got paid bi-weekly. And
Okay.
Checker
Yes,
was,
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
George Webb was the same
No, you
as,
said Checkers. You were saying something about Checkers. Go ahead and
yeah,
finish, please.
but I already told you, so that's why I went to, when I
Okay.
said Checkers, I already told you. So that's
Okay.
why I started talking again.
And George Webb?
George Webb was basically like iHOP. We got
So
paid
you,
minimum wage and tips, and they was divided amongst everybody at the end of the day.
do you know how long you worked there?
Um, maybe for a few months.
Do you know how much you were earning?
Minimum wage
No,
and
I mean like Do you have some idea how many hours you were working, so many hours? So do you have like an idea?
Um, I think that was about 40 hours a week as well.
All right. And so you said you worked for Checkers, but you didn't tell me how long you thought you worked for the Checkers.
Yeah, that was a real short period of time because I lost somebody in my family. And yeah, I ended up not having a job once I went to the funeral. So,
All right. So then when did you start working at Crown Service as the temp agency?
um, I think it was in July, but
July of what year?
21, maybe either 2019 or 2018.
All
Within,
right. So what did you earn in your assignment for Crown Services when you were assigned to Integrated Mail?
um, I started off with now I'm at 13.50 when I started off at $12 with them. But when I first started, it was $9.
So you started off at $9 per hour,
Right.
and then it went up to $12 per hour.
Right. When I came back, it went to 12. And now I'm here staying. They gave me a raise before Integrated Mail hired me. And then when they hired me, they gave me 50 cents. So right now I'm at 13.50.
And how many hours do you work a week?
My last paycheck, I can go off of that because I remember it. I earned 89 hours, and that's bi-weekly, so I got get paid every 2 weeks.
Okay, so you're working more than 40 hours a week.
Yes.
Yes. Is that typical?
No, it's kind of new for me because I never worked where I only had 1 day off a week.
So you work 6 days a week?
Sometimes. This Saturday, I was able to have the day off. They gave us a day off.
All right. Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions, Mr. Chang?
Yes, I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
I know Ms. Jackson's testimony mentioned that she's working in December. My record shows she
But
worked
you have to ask a
March
question.
2015.
You have to ask a question.
I'm sorry. My question is the length of the pay periods and also I'm sorry, the time of the working during this time. Are you sure or you wasn't sure regarding the time of the date?
I don't know his question. I'm
I
not
apologize.
understanding.
I'm sorry. My question is just I want to make it clear. Just my record shows different than yours. I just want to confirm the time and the date. I mean, I'm sorry, the day that you work at iHOP is 2015 December or March.
December, because I New Year's was coming around.
because my apologies. My record shows you working March, and you got 2 paycheck on
Okay.
March.
That's not that's not evidence. She answered that it was December. So you're asking her a question doesn't make that part of the evidence.
My apologies. I'm not an attorney, so I'm just want to just put some facts in there.
Well, that's not a fact that we're going to consider because you're not you're not the witness. Go ahead. Miss, do you have any other questions for Miss Jackson, please?
Yes. You mentioned about the tips that had to be shared with others. Okay. Is that the manager telling you, or that you have to share your tips?
Who told you that,
said,
Miss Jackson?
Dawn.
Okay. All right. Am I allowed to correct that, because that's not
No, you can't. You're not
Okay,
testifying at this point.
That's fine.
You're asking her questions. Do you have any other questions for Miss
Yes.
Jackson?
The Don. I'm sorry. You mentioned about a manager, Don. Did he tell you that he's the manager of the locations?
Not locations. You saying locations with an S.
This location that you work at Brown
Yes.
Years. So
Yes.
he told you he is the managers.
Not managers. Manager of that location. Manager. With just the R.
I know. So he is the general hiring manager at this location.
I don't know if he's the hiring manager at that location today,
No, I mean
but
at
I
that
know
time.
what he told me during the interview.
Okay,
And
so
yes,
he's the one hiring you.
to answer your question is a simple yes. That's what he told me. I don't know what y'all do behind, but that's what he told me. So yes.
Okay. And also, question is, at a part of conversation, you tell me that you mentioned his boss, to terminate you because your uniform. Is that
Correct.
Do you know who is his boss?
No, I really don't know him.
Okay.
I seen him, but I don't know him. So all I can go off is what he told me.
Let me see.
Don?
Yes, Don. All I can do is go off what Don told me as being an employee.
All right. That's all the question I have.
Okay. Any redirect, Mr. Sultan?
No, I no redirect.
All right. Then you're complete with your testimony. Do you have anything else, Mr. Sultan?
I would like the division to take judicial notice of Ms. Jackson's charge of discrimination with the EEOC.
That's the complaint in our file. That's the complaint we use.
Correct.
Yes. So I'll be using that.
And with that, that's the complainant closes her case.
All right. The complaint is resting. All right. So, Mr. Chang, you said you want to testify. Is that correct?
Yes, sure. I just want to
Okay,
make a very
so
brief. Okay.
please raise your right hand.
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that that the testimony you're about to give in the matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, I do.
All right. Then please
Can
state your name. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to ask an interim question if I could. Is Mr. Chang going to be testifying in narrative form?
I'm going to ask him some questions myself, but eventually he will be allowed to just tell me what he needs to tell me.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chang, what is your position with the respondent in this matter?
I'm the HR. I was the HR director for this company till the company.
You was or you are?
I was, because the company's
Oh.
closed. Yes.
So there is no more company at all?
No, no
I'm
Brown
not sure
Deere.
what do you mean by that?
Okay, Brown Deere 5422 Inc. is a corporation managing an iHOP restaurant, and that company is closed on December 2020.
Okay. So who do you currently work for?
I work for different corporations.
Which is?
Midwest Food Management.
Can you spell that, please?
Yes, Midwest, MIDWEST. Food, FOOD, Management.
And what does Midwest Food Management do?
We are a company, LLC that managing several iHOP restaurants in Illinois and Wisconsin.
So can you explain to me what it is you're trying to say? Are you saying that the company of Brown Deere is the employer that Miss Jackson worked for? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the company that she works as is individual corporation.
And it's called Brown Deere 5520 Inc.
I'm sorry, Brown Deere 5422 Inc.
And you say it closed when?
December 2020.
Okay. So when I send things to you in Hollywood, California, at that address of 7006 Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood, California, 90028. Who am I sending it to?
You send it to the former franchisee, Mr. Sam Solomani.
Can you spell the last name, please?
Yes, SOLEIMANI.
And he was the person who owned the Brown
Yes,
Deere 5520 Inc.
he is the franchisee to the record. Yes.
Okay. And what about Mr. Solano?
Ms. Solano is the district manager for Midwest Food Management.
So does Midwest Food Management operate the iHOP that is located in Milwaukee where Miss Jackson worked?
Ms. Jackson never worked in Milwaukee, right? She works in Brown Deere.
Was it Brown Deere?
Yes.
Okay. Miss Jackson, was it Brown Deere?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. Okay, so was that is that location currently operated by Midwest Food Management?
The Milwaukee one, yes.
All right. Okay, so then Mr. Chang, can you tell me what it is you'd like to tell me? You were talking to me about when Miss Jackson worked for what was
Okay.
called
I
Brown
thought
Deere 2022, whatever it was, 20. 5422 Inc.
Okay. I just want to say I'm not an attorney, and I don't know the the fact that when Miss Jackson was there, I wasn't present. Just based on what I have in the records, Miss Jackson's working in March 2015. She has 2 paychecks. She works approximately 3 to 4 weeks. And from my understanding, then our policies, we allow black slacks or skirt as as our uniform standards for all the IHOPs. And also regarding the minimum wage, the Ms. Sultan's mentioned about the minimum wage for is $7.25 by the state, and she worked part-time as a server. Her minimum wage was $2.13, and also we are a restaurant operating, so we hardly any our employee are working 40 hours. So I don't think our manager able to promise 40 hours a week. And also, I want to mention is mention Don. I check all the record. I don't have any GM then Don at this location, and I just want to acknowledge that. The manager I have the record at that time is Mr. David King, and that's all I have on my records.
And you're doing this based on documents that you had as part of the business when you were the human resource director?
I checked the payroll records.
All right, if you told me everything you need to tell me or that you wanted to tell me.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so Mr. Sultan, do you have any cross?
I do. Mr. Chang, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chang, you are the current Director of Information Technology and Human Resources at iHOP, correct?
Yes.
And you have a LinkedIn page, correct, Mr. Chang?
No, I don't.
You don't have a LinkedIn page that indicates that you're the Director of Information Technology and Human Resources at iHOP?
No, I don't use LinkedIn.
Okay. What are your job duties and responsibilities as the Director of Human Resources for iHOP?
I'm in charge of all the payrolls and also the onboarding edge human resource.
And that's iHOP, the corporation, not an individual franchise, correct?
No, we are not. We are franchise, not corporation, not iHOP
Okay.
corporation. Yeah.
And that franchise is Brown Deer WI 5422 Inc., correct?
One of it, yes.
What are your job duties and responsibilities as the Director of Information Technology for iHOP?
I'm just handling the POS, which is our
What does that stand?
point
What does that stand
points of sales operating system. Yeah.
Gotcha. And you have access to all of the information technology for the franchise?
For the franchisee, yes, I work for, yes.
And you have access to all of the employee information for the franchise, correct?
The personnel records on the payroll, yes.
You agree that Ms. Jackson applied to work at iHOP, true?
At that time, I don't know. I did not managing that location until late 2017, 2018.
I see. So you started managing the location sometime in 2017 or 2018, correct? Well, let me ask the question this way, Mr. Chang. Do you dispute that Ms. Jackson applied to work at iHOP in 2015?
No, I know the record that she does work for us.
So you have some record that indicates that Ms. Jackson worked for iHOP, true?
Yes.
Mr. Chang, you indicated that the company, Brown Deer, Wisconsin 5422 Inc., is no longer in operation. However, do you dispute that the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions still maintains a business filing for that company?
Yes, we still have the filing record, the tax, and all that stuff we need to conclude. Yes.
So you're in the process of winding down Brown Deer, Wisconsin 5422 Inc., correct?
We still have some records there, so we haven't closed the company completely, but the operations itself as iHOP has been ceased in December.
I understand you're not serving food, correct?
No,
But the company still exists and operates in Wisconsin, true?
we're not operating anything. It's just the company name still stands.
You're still
But
paying
no
Phil and Miss
operation, we have
Jackson?
no hiring employee, no nothing.
The other company that you mentioned, Midwest Foods,
Yes.
I'm not able to locate a Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions filing for that company. Can you tell me why that is?
This is just a management company. It's not having resales, anything. No sales, no nothing
Where is the company's headquartered?
in California.
Do you know why there hasn't been a foreign filing in the state of Wisconsin?
No, I don't.
Ms. Jackson testified that tips are shared at iHOP. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Are tips shared at iHOP?
No.
So each employee is entitled to keep the tips that they get?
Yes.
What were the average tips in 2016 for an employee in Ms. Jackson's position?
I don't know.
Do you dispute that the majority of the income that a server receives at iHOP is from tips?
For server, yes.
That was Ms. Jackson's position, correct?
I have her at two positions. She's a host and a server.
Do our host tips?
No.
Are hosts paid at the minimum wage?
Yes,
So servers are paid at the 213 plus tips, correct?
that is correct.
And the majority of what a server earns is from tips.
Yes.
What is the average annual wage for a server in Ms. Jackson's position?
I don't know because all the hours vary.
What is the average pay?
I have no idea.
I mean, as the director of human resources, one of the things that you manage is onboarding, correct?
Yes.
When a candidate asks how much they can expect to be paid on a monthly or annual basis, what do you tell them?
That never was a question because we are the restaurant business. The schedule and the hours based on availability and based on performance and based on many other things.
Is there any range you can provide
No,
for the
we
Brown
don't
Deer
have a
location?
range. No, not for the hourly employee because we don't know.
Do you know how much Ms. Jackson was paid for the one day that she worked?
I don't know. I don't know the hours. I only had the payroll records.
Hey, 1 second. Mr. Solano wants to join. 1 second. Mr. Solano? I don't hear you or see you. Are you there? Mr. Solano? Well, hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to remove you and have you come back in and see if that helps. All right, continue, and we'll see if he comes back. Hopefully he does.
Mr. Cheng, are you able to access the personnel records that you have for Ms. Jackson and tell me how much she was paid for the day that she worked?
I do have the payroll records, yes. And then she had received 2 paychecks. one.
Sure.
Sorry.
Give me the first one.
The check date was the first check date was March 20th, 2015. The other one is April 3rd, 2015.
What are the amounts?
Okay. The gross amount is for March 20th is $140.86.
All right. And the other one?
The other one, April 3rd, is $79.45.
And that's for
$79.40. Did you say $79.45?
Yeah, $79.45.
Go ahead.
And that's for Christina Jackson at the Brown Deer store?
Yes.
How many hours for the 20th check?
March 20th, she has 19.16 hours.
And the April 3rd check?
10.79 hours.
Were there any tips located on any of those checks?
Yes. The tips on March is $50.02.
Okay. And for the other one?
Is $31.13.
And how are those tips calculated?
And the calculator is part of the gross.
Is that something reported by the employee?
Yes.
Do you have a record showing?
No, this is directly pulling off on the time cards.
Do you have access to the time cards?
Not in 2015. I had to check.
And just so that I'm clear, what records do you have? I know you have the 2 paychecks. Anything else?
The payroll records, yes. The payroll record, I do have a time card record, but it's back only, back up to 3 years.
Is there any other record of Miss Jackson's employment other than those 2 check stubs?
No,
So there's not like an application or anything else?
no, not back, no.
And how did you search for Miss Jackson's information within iHOP's computer system?
Well, we have a payroll records. We have a payroll database from paychecks. And this
When you say
shows
paychecks, are you talking about the Brookfield, Wisconsin company?
Yeah, the payroll company, yes.
Okay. So you're looking at a record from paychecks, not a record from iHOP, correct?
Yes.
How did you obtain the records from paychecks?
Online. This is the online records.
And how far back do the online records go?
This one's all the way when we open when we take over 2014 for this location.
You say we take over, you're talking about the Brown Deer, Wisconsin 5422.
That's correct, yes. We obtained it from other franchisee, yes.
And Mr. Chang, how do you know that the Christina Jackson that you're looking at is the Christina Jackson who's the complainant in this case?
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
Yeah, my question is, how do you know that the Christina Jackson that you associate with these 2 checks is the Christina Jackson who filed the complaint in this case?
I don't know. I never met her.
Well, what I'm trying to identify, Mr. Chang, is there some other identifying feature in the paychecks that would allow us to determine whether the Christina Jackson associated with those checks is the same Christina Jackson in this case?
All I have is the information, social security number, address. That's all I have.
What's the address that you have on the paychecks?
Okay, let me check at that type of records. My apologies, the computer is slow. Of
No need to apologize. I want to make sure we get this correct.
course.
While he's pulling that up, Your Honor, can I just ask a question? Because I would like to ask him about the social security number. I don't want to use the entire number. Can I use just the last four?
That would be fine, as long as it's only the last four.
All right.
Okay, I found the record. The address I have is 6658 North Bourbon, and this is number 3, Milwaukee. Zip is 53224.
And what is the last four of the social security number associated with those paychecks?
4627.
Mr. Chang, do you dispute that Miss Jackson was turned away from the store on December 31st, 2015 because of her attire?
No, I don't.
Do you dispute that Miss Jackson was terminated from her employment on December 31st, 2015 because of her attire?
I don't know anything about that. So I wasn't there. I wasn't know that I don't know this, the situation or the time it happens.
So you agree that you don't have any personal knowledge of any of the events that bring us here today?
Yes, I don't have any knowledge.
Those are all the questions that I have, Your Honor, but I would like to recall Miss Jackson.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Mr. Chang, that you would like to say that you didn't say because you were you didn't think about it, but now that you've had some time and Mr. Sultan has asked you some questions, you now thought that that you have something else you'd like to say?
Decided just to make sure on records that I'm handling all the records, but I have no knowledge of the incident or what happened. That's all I have.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I think I don't remember if we got the dates. Well, what are the dates that you believe the person you think is Christina Jackson worked for the respondent?
She started working March 10th, and the last day on the paycheck day was April 3rd, which is the day that we terminate her.
And that would have been what year?
2015.
2015. Okay, thank you. Anything on that, Mr. Sultan?
No.
All right, then you're done, Mr. Chang. You've told me what you need to tell me.
Yes.
And Mr. Solano isn't coming back. I thought he would come back, try again, but apparently he didn't, was not happy when he couldn't get on. So I apologize. I thought if I, removed him, as I've done that with many other people, then he could try again, and that usually works. I don't know if you have an ability to contact him, Mr. Chang. If you do by email, you can let him know that he can try again. All right?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so you're calling your client, Miss Jackson, again, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And Miss Jackson, you understand that you're still, I don't know what you want to call it, affirming, and that you have to tell the truth?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead then, Mr. Sultan.
Miss Jackson, what is the last four of your social security number?
It is 0999.
What was your street address in the years 2015 and 16?
It is 522 West Hadley Street.
Do you still live there today?
I do.
How long have you lived there?
Since 2015 up to now.
Those are all the questions that I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to ask Miss Jackson as a result of those questions, Mr. Chang?
No, that's all the record I have. So
Okay.
I don't have any other Christina Jackson. No.
All right. I think we're concluded. You don't have anything more to put on. Is that correct, Mr. Chang?
No.
That's correct. I'm correct. I'm correct.
Yes.
You have nothing to put on.
I have nothing to wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Respondent is arrested. I think you kind of did rebuttal right there, Mr. Sultan, when you called your witness client again. Is there anything further from you, Mr. Sultan?
There is not.
And anything further from you, Mr. Chang, before we conclude the hearing?
No, I don't. No.
Did you get a hold of Mr. Solano?
No, I tried to text him, but he haven't come. He haven't get back to me yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Mr. Sultan?
I apologize. You mentioned that you were going to conclude the hearing. I thought you were just going to close the testimony, and I didn't know if you were going to
No,
permit sort of a closing.
well, I'm going to end this hearing, and then you can, if you want to brief it, that's what you're asking me. I always allow you to brief if you want to, but I am not going to, I'm going to close the hearing. The hearing's going to be closed. No
Sure,
more
I
evidence,
don't.
no nothing.
I'm not interested in briefing the matter. I just wanted to mention a couple of things in closing based on the division's questions of Ms. Jackson.
Mhm.
And it appeared that a number of the questions were directed at an affirmative defense that hasn't been filed in this case.
Mhm.
I just wanted to reiterate that there's been no answer filed in this case. There's been no affirmative defense relating to mitigation of damages asserted in this case. And so therefore, I don't believe that Ms. Jackson should, that her damages should be limited by that failure. And so I just wanted to make that point, because it's our assertion that she was going to earn minimum wage, and that she was going to earn 40 hours per week, and that we don't believe the division should take into account any sort of mitigation of damages argument.
All right. I will consider that. Anything else?
No.
Okay, and Mr. Chang, any response?
I just want to know the minimum wage, the promisings. Do you have anybody testify that we promised her? Somebody promised her for 40 hours. I just don't see how, because we are in the restaurants. We can't give 40 hours a week to promise anybody. There's no way we can do that.
All right. All right. Well, I think we are concluded, and I appreciate your time today. I appreciate you, Mr. Chang, coming. And I am sorry about Mr. Solano. I didn't intend for him to not be able to be participating. So I apologize, and please let him know that. And I think we are concluded. Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson. I appreciate your patience throughout these proceedings. We've met many times over the telephone to not get anywhere. So we finally have finished the hearing, and that is a good thing. Unless there's something further, we're going to end the hearing. Mr. Sultan
No, thank you.
and Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
I forgot about a job.
Oh, well, that's okay. Your attorney is
That's-
objecting to that anyway, so we're not going to talk
Okay.
about it. And
Okay.
Mr. Chang, I appreciate you coming. Anything from you?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much. This hearing's adjourned. I appreciate your time. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stopping the recording. Oh, well. I'm having trouble stopping. I'm going to end this. All right. I'm going to end the hearing.